Good evening, everyone.
Hello.
Evening. How is everyone?
Good.
That's good. Sorry, I'm gonna apologize now for potentially bad internet. Right. It's right on 7:30. So just so you know, everyone, this is being recorded, so it will be linked to our website. For those of you that don't know me, I'm Lizzie, the CE of New Zealand Pony Club. I'm the one that sends you all the emails. So I've been with New Zealand Pony Club in this capacity for 2 years. Prior to that, I have been a member myself as a rider all the way through my childhood. And then I've also been the mum, like some of you are, who's been not that happy, so decided that the only way I could actually make change was to volunteer. And so I've been a branch president, a club DC, on the area committee, and then stepped away from Pony Club and jumped at the chance to come to the organisation. And tonight with us, we've got 3 board members, so I'll let them introduce themselves to you.
Hi, my name's Dina. Oh, I'm Dina, and I am located in Hamilton. Like Lizzie, I have grown up in the Pony Club world, and now a mum of a dressage rider that again is embedded in Pony Club. So yeah, so I'm the latest member on the board. A very cool place to be, actually, and I'm quite very excited and been learning lots in my journey and as a board member. So yeah, look forward to meeting you all in person at the conference.
Okay, Kelly, over to you.
Hey everyone, I'm Kelly. I'm from Central Otago. I'm a mum of 2 smaller Pony Club riders. I'm also head coach at our branch. I am also on our area show jumping committee as well, and obviously do a few other roles. But yeah, excited to see everyone here. It's great.
Okay, and finally we've got Todd.
Hi everyone, I'm Todd. I'm based up in the Wairarapa Rodney area, just in Warkworth out of Auckland. I don't have a background in Pony Club or horses. I got dragged into this as a horse dad and partner of a very passionate Pony Club mum, and she's pushed me into this the whole way through. My background is in accounting and law, so that's the sort of skill set that I've brought into this, and I've been, as a result, quite heavily involved in the Constitution write-up and work as we've got through today. So yeah.
Perfect. Thanks, Todd. What we'd like to do, just really quickly, so we've got a little bit of, but know you a little bit better. I'm going to call out a name based on how my screen is, and if you could just give us your name and where you're from, and any roles that you have in Pony Club, starting with Vicky. Vicky B.
Yeah, not sure what's going on. I've got multiple ones up. Can you hear me?
Oh yeah, we can. Oh, you're both of them, are you?
I'm both of them, so I'm not sure what's going on. Okay. I'm from Pautanui Pony Club, and I'm the club secretary. Pretty new to Pony Club though. My daughter joined 3 years ago, and she got her first horse. So yeah.
Fantastic. Welcome, Dave. You're next on the screen for me.
Kia ora all, Dave Crowley, Pautanui as well. Not on the committee in any way, shape or form, just a pony dad. So that's my role.
Fantastic. You both need those dad t-shirts that say just a horse dad.
Oh, I've got a nice one that says that. So yeah.
Been there. I've got that shirt with the little scanny thing for scan for payment.
Yeah, and the more you like the Pony Club page, the more it will come on your Facebook feed. Ask my husband. Anna, yours, Anna Clark.
Awesome. I'm Anna. I'm from Upper Valley. I'm the current rally coordinator for our branch, and I love to volunteer, so heavily involved across the area. So thanks for facilitating us this evening.
Thank you. And Neil, who is first online. You're muted, Anne, if you're trying to talk. We'll come back to Anne. Claire.
Kia ora, I'm Claire Eden. I'm on 2 committees. I'm on the Wairarapa Wellington Area Committee, and I'm a very, very proud member of the Upper Valley Pony Club in Hutt Valley.
Fantastic. Chloe?
Kia ora. I'm actually really sick right now. My name's Chloe and I'm part of Onslow, but I've got to be silent because I'm really crook at the moment.
Understand. I think Todd's a bit with you on that one. Suzanne?
Hi, I'm Susan from Wairarapa. I'm the DC there, and I'm also the Vice President of our area committee.
Fantastic. I think it's Jeremy and Natasha.
Oh, g'day, Jeremy Thompson and Natasha Thompson. I'm the president of the Belmont branch. Tasha's the rally coordinator. Our daughter Jess is doing all the riding, and prior to becoming interested, we weren't horsey people, so yeah, that's our background.
Okay, thank you. I've got Anna G.
That's me. I think I've just walked in the door from floating a kid back from school, so my video's not on. I am at Belmont Pony Club, not horsey, learning it all, but really interested in the constitutional side and legal area as well. So, yeah, keen to hear more.
Excellent. Claire McMahon.
I am the Hutt Valley DC and president of Upper Valley Pony Club and also area treasurer.
Excellent. And Pip.
I think that's me, is it?
Yeah.
I currently have no role. Can you hear me okay?
It just goes in and out, but that might be my internet.
Sorry. I currently have no role, but I have had 4 children through the Pony Club system and just coming to the end of my last one, hopefully. And yeah, just quite interested to support what you're trying to do here.
Excellent. I'm going to go back to Anne before I go to the next, and Neil, before I go back to the next screen.
Yes, can you hear me?
Yes.
Oh, sorry. Look, I think I was muting myself. I hadn't unmuted, so you couldn't hear. So I'm from Makara Pony Club. I've been part of that club for about 20 years. My girls have all moved on, but I'm still coaching and seem to have kept on doing the head coach role there. And over the years, I've been involved with many area activities. I'm trying to ease off, but it looks like I'm still here. So I'm here to learn a bit more about where we're going here and to be as supportive as I can for what our area decides.
Fantastic. I'm just going to the next screen. I've got, is it Jean or Jeannie?
Oh, Jean, she
Jean.
might be another one from our.
Yeah.
No, that's me. Hi. So my name is Jean Nicola. I'm with Anne at Makara Pony Club. I'm the new president, and I have no idea about this role, but I have been involved in the Makara Pony Club for 8 years now, I think. Horsey person. That's me.
Excellent.
So I'm here to learn tonight.
Welcome. Becky.
Sorry, hi, can you hear me?
Yep.
Okay, I'm the secretary for Belmont Pony Club, part of the Hutt Valley, and I'm just here to basically find out what's going on.
Fantastic. Suze. Okay, moving on. Suze, you're there?
Yeah, I'm here. I'm the president of Battle Hill Eventing, and I'm part of Belmont Pony Club as well.
Perfect. Martina. You're muted, sorry.
Sorry, classic. I'm part of Wairarapa and I'm the treasurer.
And finally, I think it's Teresa, unless I've missed anyone out. Well, I can ask that at the end. Teresa.
Hi there, I'm treasurer at Upper Valley Pony Club. Yeah.
Okay, was there anyone I missed out? Hope not. Oh, yes, down there. No, Pip?
Yeah. Sorry, you did call me in, but I was probably muted, and then P. McMahon rudely jumped in over the top of me. But that's okay, because we're good friends. So I'll
You're welcome.
I'm Pip. I'm the district commissioner for Pawatahanui Pony Club. I've been involved in Pony Club since 1986 when I joined as a member on my little pony. So yeah, had a couple of years off here and there, but mostly been involved. So yeah, we're actually in the same boat as Wairarapa for our area. We're already a club. So there's less impact on us, but obviously there's a whole lot of ramifications per area. So it'd be interesting.
Okay.
See how this will pan out.
Sounds good. So we'll get started. If you have a question, can you just raise your hand, and Dana and Kelly and Todd will be watching. Tonight, because I'm traveling, I'm only on one screen, so they're going to be my eyes and everything. And let's get started and see. Hopefully it's there. Oh, yeah, there it is. So just let me know. Can you see that screen, someone? A blue screen.
Yep.
Okay.
Yes, we can.
Thank you.
Oh, no, we can't see the screen. Sorry, Lizzie. It's just you. Oh, here we go. See it now. Yeah.
Oh, perfect. Yeah. Because I'm normally on two screens. So what's on tonight? So the purpose of this session is basically to recap the proposed structural review of becoming a 3-layer organisation alongside the updating of the Constitution. So tonight we'd be discussing with you what your area may look like under the proposal of a 3-layer organisation versus the 4-layer organisation that we've currently got now. We'd be sharing the process and the timeline if a change to the structure was voted in by our members at the AGM for the structure of our organisation, and also sharing the process and the timeline for updating the constitutions as per the Incorporated Societies Act. So that is the purpose. We are definitely in a consultation phase. We definitely need feedback from you guys, our members, our clubs, our branches, and our committees. I'm just going to move this over here, but no, it's not going to work. We need feedback. It's really important that we need it as soon as possible, because coming in June, which I'll get to in a minute, we have a board meeting, and the board need to know, is this the direction we're going with a 3-layer organisation change, or are we sticking to what we've currently got? So all your feedback is really important. It will shape the final version. Also, all your feedback into the Constitution is really important, because there's two things running here. So if there's anything that you don't like in the proposed Constitution, you also need to let us know. But Todd will go into that a little bit later on. So also in here, our goal in the meeting, so when Kelly and I started working on the introduction ones, because we worked together, we realised that we needed a meeting to kind of move beyond the abstract idea of what the board were thinking and we'd been working on. So I'm not on the board. And we wanted to show you what a proposed structural review, removing 1 layer, could look like. And of course, we're doing that alongside needing to update our Constitution. We know that when we come up with these ideas, because they've been living in it, we've been living in it since October, that sometimes it's really hard to vote on something that feels so conceptual. So this is designed for you guys to see what it could mean for your day-to-day operations, what it could mean for your decision-making authorities, what it could mean for communication and reporting lines, and how we at New Zealand Pony Club at head office would be supporting you, the volunteers and members, through that change. Kelly, Dana or Todd, is there anything you'd like to add to that rationale?
Yeah, I just want to add, Lizzie, there's no one size fits all approach here. Like what every area wants is a little bit different. So we're trying to actually work with everyone to actually get something that is actually going to work for each area. It would not be good if we just came in and said we're going to do this and every area this is what has to happen. So yeah, that's why also it has been quite hard, but to communicate just that it's actually different for every area as such. But yeah.
Okay.
And the other thing on this we need to think about, because a lot of the feedback that's come back is, what does this mean for teams? What does this mean for competitions? We've got to realise that this is an evolving task. We can't tell you, and we are all volunteers at this head office. We have 2.5 full-time FTE in our office, and we have a board full of volunteers. So we don't have the capacity to go through and develop multiple different versions of constitutions, to do multiple different versions of our regulations, and to do multiple different versions of team competitions all at the same time. In the interest of utilising our volunteer resources appropriately, we have decided to project manage these deliverables, which means it works in a cycle. So the first cycle that we're mandated to do is the Constitution. Following on from that is a review of our competition structure and how all of that operates. But that doesn't happen until we know how we're organised, if there's any changes or if there's anything that moves around. Because the organisation has changed quite significantly since our last review on the Constitution 10 years ago. Which leads on to the next slide, so I may as well just carry on.
Yeah, absolutely.
So why are we doing this and why now? Well, again, this comes down to the board looking at the opportunity that we had in here with a mandated review from the government. So we must update our constitutions. We've been getting feedback from our members at the moment that they spend too much time in committee meetings at too many levels of the organisation, and that information doesn't flow effectively through the organisation. So what we decided here was it's a great opportunity to see whether our members are interested in actually looking at shaking up the organisation and changing the way we operate. Hence the proposal to remove a layer. That will look different wherever you are in the country. Each country's and each area and each part of it is taking a slightly different approach. But it was an opportunity for us to fully review how we operate. Now, the Constitution is our founding document. It's the fundamental outline of who we are and what we do. It governs the whole organisation. It governs how we appoint our members, how we appoint our board, how we make decisions. What we have done is said, well, if we're going to go all out and use this as an opportunity to actually listen to our members and help reduce some of their workload, what would it look like? And that's what we've put out for discussion. This process here is us getting feedback. If the feedback comes back to us that actually the members do not want to move a level, do not want to remove a level, then the constitution that we put up for a vote is going to look quite different to the constitution that we've put out recently. If the members come back to us as part of this discussion and say, actually, you know what, we're really keen to see how this would work and we're willing to work with you to develop the regs and the competitions as time moves on, then we'll be looking at putting up an adjusted version based on your feedback of what we've had today. So this is the discussion document. It outlines the high level view, and it is a draft. It is here for you guys to give us feedback on, to tell us what could work and what couldn't work. What we ask from you is that you approach this with an open mind, that you don't just go, oh, but we use this to do this, because there's often other ways of achieving the same outcome. Whether that's fundraising, whether that is pulling teams together. What I'm asking and what the board is asking is think, what do I really truly need a committee, an incorporated society with all of its compliance costs? What do I really need it to achieve? And where do I need that to sit in the organisation? Because that is the question you must be asking when you're looking at this, not, oh, but we've done it this way in the past. What do I actually need going forward to be effective for my members and to deliver the core objectives of Pony Club?
Are there any questions? I can't see anyone, so you'll just have to tell me when to move on, Todd or Kelly or Dana.
Yep. If you can, use the raise hand function. That'll flag you up on our screens and it makes it easier to see. It also means that we don't get people talking over each other, and we can actually, throughout the things, if you've got a question, use that raise hand, because it will mean that we can actually pick it up and one of us will be able to get back to that. Or any questions, you can use the chat and jump in there as well.
Yeah, I minimalised and I don't know how to find everyone again. So
That's
okay.
So I'll keep an eye on it, Lizzie.
Cool. I'll move on. So in front of you, you have got our key change timeline. And if you came to our introduction webinars, it's exactly the same as in the months, but we've been adding, with working with people, because taking their feedback, some key descriptors. So right now in May, we have begun the discussion for a 3-layer structure. And what does your area look like? What are the layers? And this, as Todd said, is full consultation. It is really important that we have got a survey out at the moment. So when you have finished this and you've had a bit of a time to think about it and mull over it, we need every one of you to do the survey. It is not a branch survey. It is not the club survey. It's not even an area survey. It's just, what do you think? We want to hear from every one of our members so that we know that we've engaged. And that survey is, do you support the 3-layer change? If at the June 5th meeting, when we go to the board, because that's when it closes, and we are seeing that our membership doesn't support it, you will not see that constitution. So that 5th of June is so important. It is your chance to shape and say, yep, we're behind you, or no, we're not. And of course, we'll be looking at the percentages and we'll be looking at where we move to then. Because it's so important, because in that 1 month, Todd has to finalise the constitution, because it must come out to you before the 3rd of July. All documents for the AGM have a 30-day period that they must be out. So we, in that 1st, 2nd or 3rd of July, will be giving you a finalised constitution for voting at the AGM. So if there's something in that constitution that you don't like, and I don't mean just the layers, I mean the membership categories, you don't like the words we've used, you don't like the disputes, or you want clarification on the voting rights, or you want clarification, you want to see the president remain, the vice president remain. We must have that feedback now, because once that constitution's gone out, it is a package. Now, normally at an AGM, once a constitution has been in play, you can make remits, but we need a whole year before we can actually make remits on the constitution. So our first changes will be AGM 2026. So we really want to get it right. So that's why we need you. We really need to hear it. I just can't stress it enough.
Yeah. Just quickly, Pip, you've got a question there.
Yep, sorry, I was muted. Sorry, I may have been a bit gormy, but is there a link to the survey somewhere?
Yes. Yes, I will show you the link to the survey when we get to the end. And the
Cool.
other thing is that I will endeavour, it may not be tonight, it might be tomorrow morning, to get you the minutes of this meeting, to get the slides of this meeting, to get the link of the YouTube, which will also be on the website, and the survey link. And I should have said this at the beginning, I have sent this to every rider and adult over the age of 18 as per your database if they are a current member. I also went to your committees, and if there was someone on your committees that wasn't a current member, I also emailed them in. So if you didn't get the email from me, I think it was yesterday, please check with me your membership or your email. About 10 bounced back, so there's 10 emails out there in your membership for Wairarapa Wellington that aren't going to the right places, but really important that you keep those databases up to date. Anyway, jump through. So at the AGM, which is on August 3rd, we'd love to see clubs and areas definitely have represented there. Now, the area gets one vote. The area votes depending on how the clubs tell it to vote. So the clubs get up to 3 votes at the and then also the clubs get up to 3 votes at the AGM. And if they have branches, their branches are telling them how to vote. If they don't have branches, their members are telling them to vote. And that is just a normal motion at your normal monthly meeting or a discussion in July, because I'm sending it out to you in July. Also at that time, I also send out, there will be no remits. So the only other voting things is board members. So, and potentially maybe a president. So we will send you all of that stuff. If you cannot be there, you must electronic vote. All the details will, if you want your say. You don't have to if you don't want to say, but if you want to have your say, and we're encouraging that, and you're not there in person, we need to electronic vote. There is no provision for proxy voting in New Zealand Pony Club. So, and the AGM's happened and the constitution that we've presented is passed. It will be submitted to the incorporated societies. If it's a structural change, there'll be workshops on different structures and how we can help you at the conference. We really want to make the conference so user-friendly. I know there's going to be some really cool things. The introduction of equine skills looks amazing. Really cool, practical, day-to-day branch club information. Perfect. September, we'll be looking at those constitutions for whatever layers we've got. If you're a 3-layer structure and there's changing, you know, that's where it's done there. Now, I need to point out there's always been the option for clubs to wind up and merge and do that. So we'll get into that a little bit later on. October through to March, preferably around the October stage, you'd have your SGMs, you'd adopt the Constitution. You cannot change anything in the Constitution. Everything that has to be changed has to be board approved. The only thing you can potentially change in the Constitution is your quorum, and that is a board approved thing. And if we're just bringing in a new Constitution, I don't think there'll be any quorum reductions at that time. All the way through, we have had people suggest that if we are changing our structure, we have a National Gypsy Day where everyone changes. Are there any questions on that timeline or any clarifications? We'll come back to it as people need. And at all times you will be supported. So if we are structurally changing, as Todd said before, there'll be documents that go alongside all of this, checklists, help, everything. We're not just going to say, okay, and change.
So this is where I just want to reiterate in here the importance of you guys giving us your feedback, because your feedback is going to shape what we put out in July. And if you don't tell us what you want, what we give you in July may not be what we get passed. And that's where we have issues, because if we get to the 3rd of August and we have something that membership can't approve and can't vote on, it's going to be very, very difficult for your clubs and branches later on to get their constitutions up in space. And that's because for us to do this in the time and the manner that we're looking at, regardless of the constitution that we go forward with, we need to do the national one in July. We need to start immediately drafting the next levels down so that you guys have those instruction manuals and everything else. If you vote no in August, we have to start that process again. The only reason you'd probably vote no would be because you haven't told us what you want in the consultation. So please, it's incredibly important that you tell us what you want and what you need, that you listen to the feedback and the information that comes through, because to Kelly's point earlier, we've got to design something that's flexible enough to deal with all parts of our country, and every part of it is slightly different and runs slightly different. So it's never going to be 100% perfect, but we've got to do it as well as what we can. So I can't reiterate enough, to hit the timetables that we need, you must feed back after these meetings as comprehensively as possible to us where you're thinking, what you're thinking, where you want to go and why, so that we can develop we can show you how things can work with the new structure, or we can adjust the constitution to deal with the issues that have been raised.
I forgot to mention before, Todd, sorry, jumping in here, that this was raised, and there might be some people in this room who were around in this time, I don't know, that this was raised in 2010. So it's not the first time this has been on the table. So in 2010, when all the clubs did their first round of incorporated societies, and I was a club president at the time, but branch president, I didn't know all the rest of it. We changed from a committee of management to an elective, to a board of 7, a governance board of 7, with 5 elected members and 2 appointed members. At the same time, there was the work, the conversations, the roadshow, where Anne Atkin and Nikki Williams went around the country, and they looked at removing the club layer. There was no discussion, it was club layer, and that's where it was. And unfortunately, that work at the time, it wasn't well received. It was like, no, come back to it later on once we've got used to a board. The conversation has never stopped. It has been a constant conversation in our exit surveys. When people leave, we do an exit survey. It's been a constant discussion about volunteer time, volunteer burnout, too many layers. It's also been conversations in our ears. We often hear about, what does this layer do? Do we need this layer? And also in our annual plan survey. And I know we probably do too many surveys. Last year's survey was the best, 191 respondents out of a membership of 3,500 over 18s. But that also highlighted it. There were some positives, of course, but it highlighted that the volunteer time and burden of volunteers.
Becky's got a question, Lizzie.
Perfect.
Yeah, hi. I was just curious around whether or not the feedback will be made publicly available.
Yes,
or at least
absolutely.
From all the regions, to see what the general vibe is from everybody.
Absolutely. We will not. We'll need to work with it first to decide what we're going to do, but it's definitely not going to be hidden. It's your feedback. And actually the other day, sorry, I've just been a little bit busy. Someone asked, can I actually put I do send out the summaries of like the annual survey last year. It went out to all the clubs and areas to move on to there, and the participants that did it. But I'm actually going to, we'll start putting things like that online so people can see them. Exit surveys is a little bit, that we need to have a discussion about that, because
the key thing is, we will provide the feedback, we'll provide summaries. We will make sure that it's anonymous.
Yeah,
where we
absolutely.
have enough information, we will break it down by areas, but we probably won't go lower. And that's just to make sure that we preserve people's privacy, because
Yeah.
we know how sensitive this can be to a lot of members, and we want to make sure that nobody feels that we've outed them when they shouldn't have been outed, and we don't want to cause any issues in that space.
You can put your name on it, but we have no intent of sharing that. It's just sometimes people ask a direct question, and in the survey, if I don't know who you are and I really want to respond to your question or give you some clarity, I kind of need to know who I'm chatting to. Should I go to the next slide? Okay. So currently, Pony Club is, it depends where you are. So, but there are 4 layers. There's New Zealand Pony Club. We've got our 15 areas, which originally was 16 areas only a few years ago. And we have 87 clubs. Now, the club layer is made up of clubs that underneath have the branches, 138 of them. And also we have clubs without branches. So that's what we've got. We won't do the examples because we'll chat about those when we get there. So here are our areas of New Zealand Pony Club, and as Kelly said, this is currently, I think, our 5th or 6th constitution meeting, and you can come along to any of them. Don't just think that you can't come to your one. You can come to every single one if you want to. But so far, I can tell you, not one area is the same as in a model. We have got some areas that are predominantly clubs with branches and then we have got quite a few areas that have just got clubs. So, and as you can see on the screen there, look at the size there. It's kind of, look at Otago Southland. I only realised yesterday that they've got Stewart Island in there. So that's our country all split in. You know, another discussion as part of this is, are the areas where are they where they're meant to be now? Because I know, I don't know Wellington and Wairarapa very, very much, but I know that you've got a massive new road. So as we get on to the next section, these are some of the questions that we were asked in our first introductory webinars. So just they're pertinent to every area. Will clubs lose their identity? We don't imagine they will. Even today, we have clubs, we have branches that merge with other branches, or we have branches that become clubs. And I can think in Manawatu, West Coast, we have Wanganui and Petrie that merged, and instead of losing their names, they became Wanganui Petrie. Same in the Hawke's Bay, we have Paraiti, Puketapu, and they've merged just only a year ago, and they kept both names. Their uniforms, luckily, because they were from the same club, were the same. They just had different hat covers, and they've made sure that they've remained with their cups and their histories and their traditions. We've also got other areas, and I'm thinking of Northland, where Monganui wasn't a name used, but when Kaitaia and Awanui decided they could no longer be separate, they merged and formed a new club to reflect the area called Monganui, and they still have venues in both locations. But as I said before, every area is different because you've all got different councils. Not one council is the same. Is this about closing clubs? I'm going to do this in 2 parts. No, it's not about closing clubs, but unfortunately, because of the incorporated society, clubs that have been far too small for far too long won't be able to continue, because to become incorporated, you have to have a set number of members. So it's not about closing clubs, and we'll do everything we can for them to get more members, even if it's grandma, granddad, nana, uncle, friend down the road. We'd encourage all of that. But, you know, if they can't get to the number, they can't get to the number. Is it about reducing events? It's definitely not about reducing the events. It's about focusing on where the rider spends the most at most of their time, the majority of their pony club journey. We really want to aim consistency, and we want to support you. And that was one of the things I got a lot last year from a member from Wellington, your area, who wanted me to like more support. New Zealand Pony Club, more support. You know, we're not based in Wellington. We're all remote across the country, but they wanted more support and more consistency, and that's what we're really focusing on in our strategic plans for the next 4 years as well. If you did merge or you did have a layer reduction, what happens to your assets? Well, your assets remain within your area and within your clubs. So with you, we talk about a way of distributing them downwards or upwards. So if you were branches and you merged, how would that look? If you were an area and you were no longer an area, what would have to happen to your assets there? But they definitely stay within your area. We want them to stay in your area. If you had venues and property, we'd work with you, wouldn't we, Todd, to make sure that you could stay as a pony club is our number one priority with property.
Let's just be very, very clear on this one. As an organisation, we don't want to take assets to head office. For a start, our head office is remote. Lizzie doesn't want them in a container on her front lawn. No. So we don't need assets in there. We don't want them as part of that. If there is land or anything attached to those, we want to make absolutely certain that stays. If there's leases or any of those, we want to make sure they stay available to Pony Club, because throughout the country we're fighting a battle around having places for our kids to ride. We don't want to lose those, so we are very highly incentivized in making sure that those assets stay available and stay for use in the areas and the clubs that can use them. So if there is a club that's getting too small, we want to see a way to make sure that some other club is able to pick up the slack in there and make sure that we don't lose any assets or leases or grounds that are available. So if you see that happening, please speak up and call out so that we can assist you on that process. To Lizzie's point around some of these questions, what she's saying in here, I'd just like to also reiterate, nothing's changing.
No.
But all of these ones, is it about closing clubs? Clubs close all the time. Clubs open all the time. Nothing changes with that. Our environment and our geography changes. People move out. I'm in Auckland. We have an issue that all of our farms that we ride on are now covered in houses. So everything there is different, and our pony club has to respond. So it's not about closing clubs. It's about making sure that we are able to facilitate our kids getting out there and riding in areas that are available to them. That's what this is about. And nothing changes in that space.
Yeah, and you know, we do not have any aims to become like ESNZ and own equestrian centres. You know, there's a lot of work for ESNZ and having 2 national equestrian centres. Let's leave that to them. So that is definitely not on the cards anyway.
I'd rather lease it off them for a competition than have to do
So would I. So would I. I don't want to have to look after someone else's assets, Todd. No, thank you. And I definitely don't want a container or things on my front lawn. It's bad enough having a few resource boxes in my garage. You know, will you be able to host events? Absolutely. As Todd said, the everyday running of a club and intermediate layer remains the same. I was just chatting last night. We actually discussed it. ESNZ doesn't have, not every layer of them is incorporated. So my Taronga Dressage Club, which runs events all the time, is not an incorporated society. They are just a group of people running with a minimal bank account, and they're affiliated. They are affiliated to ESNZ though, but it's different structure for them, and they still run events. So we imagine, but we are incorporated. So we can still run events, we can still run camps. There's nothing stopping Club A and B, even though they're not in the same area, working together. In the South Island, they operate a lot more events on a roving basis, like the show jumping champs and oh gosh, Springston. And I think you're similar with Bruce Forbes. Is that right? That moves around, or is that your area? Or anyway, and a branch runs that. Branches run that. So the smallest identity run it. And last year at Springston, it was a key group of 5 people. They got Nana, granddad, friend down the road. They let someone else do funding applications, and it was massive. It was just phenomenal. So you don't need to be, a formalized incorporated society to help run an event. As we said, why now? Because people suggested it, and we thought, let's review it again. It felt right, and we had to renew all the constitutions. They are separate, but we had to renew. And we definitely want to look at consultation. We're following that democratic process. I'm going to jump to the next slide. So before we get into what your area looks like, and I have to admit I left one thing off, but when I get there, I'll get there. We want you to start thinking about, are your area boundaries for the country what we need for today? With new roading, new urbanisation, the disappearance of farms, are they what they need to be today? I was surprised today, Puanui, out there, it's all becoming car parking and housing and business in Auckland. Is my branch or club youth focused? That's a biggie. And is it providing for the purpose of Pony Club? Now, one thing we'll be clearing up in the Constitution, and it was the intent currently, and it's definitely going to be cleared up, is that a club or branch currently states it must be 15 riders, of which 8 are adults. It's inferred, but not stated, that 7 must be riding members under the age of 25. Because we haven't said 7 members under the age of 25, it becomes very difficult at times, and they're not youth focused, and they're not providing for the purpose of pony clubs. That's not you guys. I've looked at your numbers and you'll see them too. Does my branch or club have enough members to operate? Tick, you do, you're all good. And is my club or branch in the right area? Is it time to move a different area? I don't think you guys could move any further south unless you wanted, to go across the boat every day. But, there are questions. I have had questions from people in your neighbouring areas going, are we in the right area? Should some of the Hawke's Bay come down into Wairarapa, Wellington? Some of the Manawatu West Coast, are they in the right area? There are conversations that people have been saying. And I guess because we're having this consultation, it's the perfect place to think about it. Let's get to the fun stuff. Oh, no, one more slide. So if you weren't aware, this is the purpose of Pony Club, and this will be in all constitutions. So basically, we hope we've not missed anything out here, but this is our why and our what we're doing. So basically, promoting, developing, fostering, administrating Pony Club activities, events, which include, of course, our rallies. It's an amateur sport, and we're focusing on education of all our members. I'll give you a moment or so just to have a browse of that. You will get these slides as well, so you can really dig deep. But if there's something in here that's not quite right, let us know, because it's the time to change. Okay, moving. Oh, one more. Okay, so if we were looking at a 3-layer structure, we know that we must retain our club layer, because that is where the foundation, that is the foundation of the Pony Club experience. That is where the rider spends their time. That's where they receive their instruction. They work towards their certificates. If they're doing certificates, they don't have to. They build their community. This is where clubs are focusing on regular rallies, the coaching, the developing, developing safe and capable riders, volunteers and horses. This is under the proposed 3-layer structure. So at the moment, if you're a branch, you're doing this. If you're a club with no branches, you're doing this as well. We know that the national layer, our role at national is to set the visions, the values, the strategy for New Zealand Pony Club, to ensure the consistency and standards, oversee national competition, manage national partnerships, maintain the policies and framework, including safety education and certification pathway. So that is our role at the national level. So in the middle there, it's the administrative layer, where we've got the governance and the oversight. So acting as that intermediary layer between the clubs and the national body. But I must point out here, anyone at any time is welcome to come to the national office, email us and ask us questions. That is why we're here. Developing a really cool A to Z guide on the website too. So hopefully that will be helpful, but you can email me anytime or give me a call. Development and support, we're looking at this layer is the extension of the rider beyond the club environment. So this is the area champs, the training camps, those senior rallies, those talent pathways, those inter-club events. It's about resource sharing, coordinating, in some cases, funding applications or resources, and even potentially in some areas, there's a lot of ownership of shared resources across multiple clubs, but it depends where you are. That's very big, isn't it, in your area, Kelly, in South Otago?
We've got a few things like games trailers and things like that we're all sharing amongst each other. Yep.
And it's also our best practice forum. So that is the proposed idea of what we'd be expecting to see in the 3 layers. So layer 1 and layer 2 are basically the same, and layer the second layer there, sorry, layer 1 and 3 are the same, and layer 2. Now, if you are already in a club, you go, well, actually, there's no changes for us. But it depends what your area decides to do. So let's have a look at Wairarapa, Wellington. Okay, here you guys are. So 60%, that's just the number of people that came to the intro webinars. That was about the same across the country. There's your numbers on the bottom left, and they are as of March 2025, and the riding numbers, the under 25 numbers, are the numbers that your club will be using for voting at the AGMs. These are your national, this is the annual report numbers. So they might look different today because these were taken in March 2025. So currently we've got New Zealand Pony Club, Wairarapa, Wellington, and then you've got 2 clubs with branches being Belmont, Upper Valley, and then Wellington with Makara and Onslow. And sorry, I need help with this name. Patahanui, is that right? Probably a lot quicker.
Powatahanui.
Okay, Powatahanui and Wairarapa. So is that everyone agrees that's what we currently look like?
Aye.
Perfect. Okay, so the next slides, these are all just fictional because Kelly and I were sitting there. We're not from your area. So when we started to have a little play and going, what could it look like? We decided we couldn't really do this. We needed your input because where I live in Katikati in the Bay of Plenty. But if I actually look up on Google to go and get my hair cut, Te Araha is 5 k's away. There's only one big problem. There's this massive range in the middle called the Kaimais. So if I was using the Google map, I don't know that unless they put a tunnel through. So we don't know this changes. And I know that you guys have got new roads and things like that, but we don't know your area well enough. So this is why we're doing this with you. So on paper, this is just a play, just an example. So these are your ideas to ponder if we were going with a 3-layer structure. Now, around the country, we've had quite a few areas say to us, well, we actually really like our area Our area is doing really well. We're committed to our area, and it's not just about our riders riding for area teams and us hosting eventually eventing champs or maybe champs week, because we're reviewing every year we need to review champs and eventing champs and things like that, and it's still possible that riders would still be representing Wairarapa Wellington even if you didn't have Wairarapa Wellington as an area, because it's where they live. So this would be if you were retaining the area as a second lao. An idea. You guys probably have a lot more ideas. So what I've done here is I've just, because you're all able, you've got the right numbers to be clubs in your own right. So Belmont, Upper Valley, Makara and Onslow, instead of having a club being Hutt Valley and Wellington above you, you are the club. Wairarapa Wellington is the second layer and New Zealand Pony Club is the national layer. So there'd be no effect. Oh, now Todd, we know that you've got an incorporated out here and I forgot to put it on this morning. Over here somewhere we've got this little line called Battle Hill Eventing. And Todd, did you want to talk about that with them?
Yeah, so you guys are unique. You're not unique. There's actually a couple of others that we found in there that do similar sorts of things, but you've got this this entity called Battle Hill Eventing that has a lease on a property, and its members are a number of clubs in the Wairarapa Wellington area. That sort of entity does not change. So the main impacts that will happen to that would be potentially to look at the clubs that vote and make it up, which is already possible in Battle Hill Eventing's constitution. That would be one where we'd need to speak to you separately on how you would update that constitution in line with the New Incorporated Societies Act. But it's sort of a standalone entity outside, and because it has no voting rights into the wider Pony Club Association, it's not something we're that worried about. So if you wanted to keep it and you saw that there was value in there, then that sort of thing still stays exactly as it is today.
So I'll update your slides. I actually think they were rather forward thinking in 2012 when it happened.
It was a unique thing to come across.
Yeah, it was. So thank you for that. So that was just one of our ideas here. So is there any question? I'll go through all of them and then we can go backwards and forwards. Now remember, they're just examples. So then we chatted, and this works for some areas because they haven't got the same councils, and this is based a bit like on what Northland has done. They in some of their clubs. So retaining the second layer being the area, but the clubs stay. So Hutt Valley is the incorporated society. Wellington is the incorporated society, just as the other two. Nothing changes for them. But this is where it comes a bit different. And Belmont, Upper Valley, Makara and Onslow would be venues of their clubs being Wellington and Hutt Valley. Now that has, there's of course implications, because you've got to, if you've got a council property, you've got to make sure that you've got the approval of that council. In Monganui, Kaitaia and Awanui councils were more than happy for them to retain their use of those venues, and they actually added a third one in, Matthews Hanoverian. So they're very lucky that they've got 3 venues. Where in Otago, is it North Otago, Kelly?
No, South Otago.
South Otago with Clutha, yeah. So a South Otago Pony Club, they weren't big. They were a club with 3 branches. They've already done this. This has happened a few years ago. They merged Belmont, no, it's not Belmont, you're Belmont, Balclutha, Owaka and Clinton all became venues of their club South Otago. It works for them because once again, they've got a farmer, they've got distance, they've got councils that are supporting it. What they do in that situation, so it's a viable option for small branches that are no longer constitutional. You are not in that situation of being small, but you might want to consider it. What they are doing is as well as saying, okay, well, we've got our committee, but we've also got a team that are going to look after Belmont's grounds, and we're budgeting for it. We've got a team that are going to look after Upper Valley's grounds, and we're going to budget for it. So that's how they're working. But it works for them, and this might not fit for you. So this is just a scenario that we've had different places, especially those that are smaller.
Claire McKay's just put in there that Wairarapa already run this model with 2 grounds at Solway and at Clearville. So, in that case, it's the same sort of thing where it's not much of a change in Wairarapa. You guys know how that process works.
Yeah, and Anna's also highlighted that in the link that she has also put on there. Which has got some similarities to what you've got up here too, Lizzie, as well, which is great to see.
Perfect.
The one thing I would say in there, where you've got Battle Hill out the side, that's not going to have a straight line into Pony Club, again, because of its voting rights and its status solely as an entity to own communal assets. That's going to have sort of more of a dotted line space in there. It'll be bound by the rules and regulations, but it won't have the right to attend the AGM or vote on a wider constitution.
I'm loving hearing there's some pre-work going on and some pre-thinking. That's amazing. Awesome. And it's also happened like last night on Waikato, Tikawarian districts, just a bit like Wairarapa. I said to Roger last night, he's like Tikawarian districts with eight branches at one stage. I was like, wow, but now it's one club, and they've kept that Tikawari and district. So they've kept that ownership and that history going on. I'll go to the next slides because it really depends, what you want to do with your area, and if you want to keep that, because areas, they've got the history, they've got the admin layer, all of that. These are the discussions that you guys have got. Now, this is a little bit where we recognise that we gave you all a word called cluster. We did say at the time it was just a word that we hung because we didn't want to put areas in there. But this would be, instead of having your area as the second layer, but having, and I don't know if this works because I don't know where these, so I know where Wairarapa is, but I'm not sure where Pauatanui is on the map, so apologies. But if you wanted a cluster being Hutt Valley, a cluster being Wellington, and a cluster being another cluster, this may work for you. In Hawke's Bay, Hiratonga has got such a history, being the first club in New Zealand Pony Club, and they are, some of them are like, no, we don't want to lose that history. So there was talk the other night that Hiratonga might be its own sub-club, and then the rest would be Hawke's Bay off to the side, around the bottom and around the top. So some creative thinking to keep that history, but this is up to you if you wanted to do this. In the Waikato, in Auckland, we talked about Central Auckland, Central Auckland, Eastern Auckland, and Southern Auckland. Up there, they're talking about Franklin Thames Valley and Auckland. The boundaries are so close. Papatoetoe in Auckland, 5 minutes on the same road, is Ardmore, which is Franklin Thames Valley. Same with Clevedon, is 5 minutes away from Hanua, and they're really looking at their boundaries, going, what do we do? What do we do? Massive. And then the third one that I just had a play with was splitting the area into 2 hubs. I don't know if that would work. I really don't know where you sit. I'm sorry. Where you've got Wellington and you've got Wairarapa. But I don't know if you're big enough to continue on like this. So as we said, this was just a little play of going through. So does anyone want to have some questions about any of these or anything like this?
It does seem like you guys as an area have kind of got something sorted out and been thinking about this quite a bit. So yeah, it's probably just working out really what is going to work for you guys the best, really.
So can I just ask a question? I just saw a hand go up, but I just want to ask a question. So when Wairarapa, obviously the two branches merged or became into Wairarapa, can you tell us what you did? The assets just come with them? What kind of things happened?
That actually happened just before I joined Pony Club, to be fair. But basically, yeah, they did. Martina, you were involved, but yeah, basically the assets were joined together. At that stage, we had 3 venues that we ran across. We're now down to 2 venues. But yeah, essentially some agreements were drawn up. But yeah, everything was just basically put together. Yeah.
I had a club yesterday come to me from Auckland, and currently they are right on the cusp. They've got 16 people, but this has led to that discussion that they already know that next year a family's moving to Christchurch. That family has got 3 of the riders and 2 of the parents. So suddenly they're like, oh, we're going to be low. But also in Auckland where they are, the men's shed has come in and the council has said, well, the men's shed's coming. They're building a shed there, love it or not. So they came to me and said they had a meeting with their Auckland Banner Cow and said, I think it's time. We need to merge. And it was great thinking. I'm not saying any of you are in that situation, but it's definitely, if you get small, I definitely say be proactive and look at it early.
I think Martina's got a question, and also Anna, did you want to put a comment in as well, Anna? I saw your hand up before, but
yeah, I guess my question is more related to how other areas are tackling that question of boundaries. So for us, we've got Transmission Gully as our main drag into Wellington. That is new. So Waikato is a consideration in terms of coming into this area. But I guess just it's around timeframes, I guess, becomes the question for me is how are those discussions happening? Do they get facilitated through you or?
Yeah, through me. So it's those discussions through me. So it's like we do these meetings, and if it goes down the structure and the structure comes in, if the structure is the one that's presented and gets voted in, well, before that we'll know in the 1st of July, it will be those discussions then and go, are there any areas that are people considering moving? I've even had a radical absolute new area being put out there, and these will be those conversations. Like we know that in the central, which I'm really sad about because I'm from King Country, and a bit radical, we were the first team in 1987 that went to champs not as a team. We only had 3 riders, so we weren't a team. We were 3 DCs, had the best time of our lives, best event ever. But, I've had some radical people go, well, hang on a minute, why don't you have a new area called Central Plateau and take in Tokoroa, Taupo, and King Country? And so it's a radical idea out there. No one's said yes and no one said no, because interesting enough, Taupo is in the Bay of Plenty, but for councils, it's in the Waikato. So on the Equestrian Sports and New Zealand Pony Club and Sports NZ facility review for equestrian, Bay of Plenty don't actually have Taupo. It's a really odd, there's so many different maps, like the regional sports body maps are so strange compared to ours. So, is it time to look at them? So, sorry, I'll get back to the point. Yes, we'd
just
have
want
those
to go on
discussions.
to this. That as well, the key thing on here is that's also not necessarily a constitutional question, because at any time, branches, as it stands today, branches, clubs or areas can petition the board to move, because it's actually in the regulations that the board will set the boundaries for areas and the clubs and branches that will make those up. So that's a separate discussion to constitutionally. Constitutionally, what we need to know is, do we need a new area, because that's going to change, or is there going to be some new entities put in below here because they're going to need constitutions? If we stay broadly the same, then actually it simplifies it from a constitutional perspective. It creates a little bit more complexity from a rules and regulation perspective, which is where that conversation around who sits where comes in. Now, Martina, you had a question, and then I've got Vicky.
It was more just a comment about the when North and South Wairarapa merged. When it was voted on, it was very, very touch and go if actually people wanted it, and we thought that it would bring all of the committee people and all of the volunteers over from both clubs, but actually it shrunk the number of people that put their hands up. So I just kind of just an interest in, and we'd seen it go through, and we still now having 45 I think members have struggled. So yeah, it was just an observation of being through it.
I think at the end of the day, if you do change, there'll always be some people that, and I just remember from my previous career in education, you'd be sitting there making decisions, and there'd always be some people that are like, no, I'm not with it. But we used to run on the fact that it's a majority rules, and hopefully the majority will, because you voted for it, it will come through and it will work.
And I'd just like to say that, and counter to that one, we merged Waitemata and Rodney into Waitemata Rodney back in the 90s, 2000s. That happened. Rodney Area Pony Club got amalgamated into the Waitemata area. Yes, that dropped, but now it's massive, and the people that actually work through into those have built up, because it's built up we've had new blood come through. They haven't been tainted, I guess, by, well, this didn't go my way, so I'm out, and it's changed. Sometimes it's about just giving it time.
But everyone's
now
different.
We've got Vicky, then Jeremy, and I see Jeremy and on the screen, but Vicky.
Yeah, I just wanted to ask a question. So aside from, I guess, the structural change with the constitution, there are other changes within the constitution changes. So membership, there's voting right changes. Is that anywhere on the NZPCA website where we can see what the clear differences are between the two constitutions?
No, because we couldn't do a marked change because the constitutions were so radically different. So we got given a template from Sports NZ, and that's the first thing that Todd did, was tried to adapt what we've currently got to what we needed to have, and it was just too radically different that we can't have a marked change. So, but Todd, what are the main changes? Are the disputes process?
The disputes process, the removal of the president and vice president as roles. There will be a change to voting, and that's one that we're also looking for more feedback on, because it's currently set at a reasonably low level for some of our larger clubs. For example, you get 3 votes at 50 members, whereas we've got some clubs that have 140, 150 members out there. So they're feeling a little bit left out, that proportionally they're bringing a lot of members in and they're not getting the votes in. So we've asked for some feedback on what that would look like. I'm getting a lot of feedback through your mic, I think, Vicky, through your speakers. So one of the things that we will be doing come June, July is definitely going into that in a bit more detail, but it's also one, I guess, I really want your guys' feedback on around. At the moment, we've kept it pretty much exactly as it used to be. So
there's some clarity, that things that need to be a little bit clearer in terminology and not inferred.
So, but voting, for example, stays pretty much exactly where it was. The difference being that Previously, branches didn't have a vote. Now they will be, if they use the new constitution, they will be clubs and they will have a vote. That often splits. So, for example, Hutt Valley takes the votes for Belmont and Upper Valley. There's 43 there, so that should give it 2 votes. Going forward, there'll be 2 and 1. Upper Valley will get 2 votes, Belmont will get 1, so now it'll get 3 votes in the new structure, as an example, for the same entity. But there'd be the expectation that both of those would turn up to the AGM to act on those. Previously, Hutt Valley was the same as Wairarapa, but now Hutt Valley would have one vote more than Wairarapa if you split out Belmont and Upper Valley. Is that still right? That's the question we need answered from you guys. Do we still use the percentage that we have, or do we do something like you get 1 vote per what we class as riding member, so member under 25, and it's just a proportion, and every club gets based on their membership at the date that the annual report's done.
So Belmont would have 13 equivalents.
Yep, Belmont would have 13, Upper Valley would have 30, and it's all done based on that. So that's a discussion, I think, that we still need to get your feedback as to what you'd want around there and how far you want to go, or whether you want to go a bit more simply on that space.
Can I just also direct our first introductions webinars, which are on the website, which I'll show you at the end. They had very clearly the three big areas of change on the slides, so I can show you where they are when we go to the website at the end of our session. That's how we wrap up. We go for a tiki tour around the website.
Then we've got Jeremy and Claire.
Jeremy and Natasha, is it?
We've got Jeremy and then Claire, sorry.
Yeah, g'day, Jeremy here. So just, I'd like to emphasise Martina's point before, because I think it was a pretty pertinent one, and it's certainly one of the biggest concerns that I have in merging the Wairarapa area. You actually ended up going from 3 venues to 2 venues eventually, and 3 committees of, I assume it would have been 5 to 7 people on each committee who all were involved and thought they had a job and needed to participate, down to now just 1 single committee. And I don't know how many people that consists of, but I doubt it's of a similar number. So
12,
that's my
12
concern
on our
with.
committee.
Sorry?
12 on our committee.
Yeah, so it's you've potentially, if you had 7 on each committee at the start, you've gone from 3 to 2 venues, and from 21 people down to 12 involved.
But my question is, would they have been able to operate constitutionally with enough numbers?
Well,
anyway?
that's the point I was getting to. So if you just let me do that, at the moment, in terms of Hutt Valley, we've got 2 very active committees with a lot of volunteers, and I think that's because you actually rely on people to take up the roles: secretary, treasurer, president, rally coordinator, whatever. So it gives everyone a purpose in the club, and it means that they come along to do these things and help out, setting up show jumping rings or whatever. Whereas if you take out some of those roles, you're probably not going to have as many turning up, because they go, oh, well, the committee's going to do it. I don't need to be there. It's not my role. So I'll let the committee do the setup and the pack down, and I'll just turn up on the day. So the pool of volunteers significantly reduces.
I'd challenge that back though, because I think that's a lot of how people manage. Because on the counter to that one, I have seen the total opposite, where we have had these massive committees and everybody's pointed at somebody else. You've had one person setting up a ring for the show hunter event on the weekend. So I don't think it has to do with roles. It has to do with people being very
so in our
clear
area,
around.
at the moment, in our area, that happens by club. So we say, Macra and Onslow will do this, Belmont and Upper Valley will do this, Wairarapa will be responsible for this. But suddenly, if you've only got 1 committee of people, you're not going to be able to do that, because you're just 1 club, 1 committee, and
You don't. You've
you're
still
trying
got
to
two
manage.
committees. You can do it at Wairarapa, Wellington.
Yeah. Okay. Oh well. I mean, oh yeah.
Yeah, I know.
That's
I know. I think the thing is, it sounds like I don't know how you guys operate, because that's from the feedback from other clubs, and that they're crying out from the meetings I've had so far. They're crying out for people to come onto the committee. I haven't actually heard of a committee with 14 people on it. Like, you guys are amazing.
And the biggest complaint we've got on these ones is that the person, for example, who's on the Makara committee is also on the Wellington committee, who is also on the Wairarapa Wellington committee. And they come to us and said, you know what? I'm fucking exhausted because I'm on too many committees. And I have one meeting every week in the month. And actually, that's tiring. So you get that. That's the counter argument we've been getting to that structure.
Yeah, okay. I just thought about it was more about you guys sort of listening to what we wanted rather than you telling us what was going to be best for us. That's all.
I'm just providing a counter argument in there. I'm not telling you what's best, because I'm also saying what else other areas are doing to help you understand why we're doing what we're doing. And it's not just us saying we haven't thought about it, but we have had this come back from other areas.
Would the slide that's on the screen at the moment, that wouldn't work for you because there wouldn't be enough people? So the only structure, so you're in favour for keeping the 3-layer structure because you've got enough volunteers. Is that what we're saying?
Lizzie, yeah, pretty much that is a good. I mean, like what I'm saying is, I think at the moment Macra and Onslow work very well together as Wellington Pony Club. Belmont and Upper Valley have got a super team. I know that because I'm involved in it. We work very well as Hutt Valley, and we coordinate with all of the other pony clubs, Wairarapa, Paranui, Wellington, and ourselves to have a pretty active area. And I just don't see a need to change a good thing, which, I mean, brings me back to my point about timeline. Is like, is there an option? And I think you have said there is. Why don't you make the required changes under the Incorporated Societies Act that you need to make, and then start looking at competitions, area boundaries, mergers, minimum numbers, etc. Because you're rolling it all into one. You're doing it in a very hurried and rushed. Can I finish?
Yeah, no, for sure. So yeah, we definitely are hearing what you're saying.
Yeah, I just think you're rushing the process, and you're actually doing a whole lot of stuff that people don't necessarily want or need. And what you actually need to do is just satisfy the requirements of the new act, and that's all. And I'm all for discussing all of the other stuff once you've done that.
So I just go back into there slightly, as why we're doing it now is because if we're going to make changes, and that's what the membership is, if the membership is telling us what to do we've got to change the incorporated societies anyway. Let's make the changes now because it's a volunteer base of the people having to do it. So it's more about making sure their time and that we get it through. But we absolutely understand. We understand what you're saying. You know, we've had the same, and we found out about this last year, but no templates, no nothing, none of that. So we took the move of what we'd been listening to, and you know, for Wairarapa and Paranui, nothing would change. But I'm hearing that you really like Hutt Valley being your club, and you've got enough volunteers to make Upper Valley and Belmont work with Hutt Valley, and same with Onslow, Makara and Wellington. So that's great. That's amazing. So I really would love to see Hutt Valley, Wellington engaging with us and coming along to like conferences and things like that, because it's even last year we didn't get a lot of engagement. So it's great. This is awesome.
Yeah, I mean, that's a good point as well, Lizzie, I think. But the focus that we have as a small club is not attending conferences and meetings about constitutions and stuff. It is really a focus on little kids enjoying riding their ponies and getting their certificates. So it would be lovely to be a part of all that stuff and have the resources to travel down to Christchurch or Taupo, wherever it happens to be.
We were in
but
Wellington.
That's not the reality.
We were in
Last
Wellington
year,
last year.
and I just have to say, when you're a club, actually in the constitutions, and that you actually, when you sign up to be a club, it states in the current constitution that you will be an attendee, and even that's an electronic voting at the worst case scenario attendee. And so going forward, I really need out of this, even if we don't change, is that engagement from our clubs, our Hutt Valleys, our Wellingtons, and make sure that we've got that, and engagement from our areas. And that's what we're here for. We only want to make it better. And absolutely what you said, that's the support structure of Belmont and Upper Valley, and that's what we're focusing on as well. We want to be focusing on the grassroots. I don't know, like obviously you don't have people like on 3 committees, or many people on 3 committees. It's brilliant. I love it. Love your model. Let's bottle it up and sell it. Let's use you as how it should look. Brilliant.
Well, no, I'm not. That's not correct at all. We do have plenty of people on various different committees, but what I'm saying is that is actually working. So I'm not saying that it's a magic bullet to have no one going to any meetings, because that's not the reality. But if you would like us to prioritise meetings over actually having kids on their ponies and having fun, then yep, we can do that. But I personally don't want that.
I'd just like to go back to something on there, Jeremy, because I think you're getting a little bit facetious in your comments. We're not talking about prioritising meetings. However, I'd also like you to be aware that all of these committee members are going to have obligations under the Act. They are going to have the legal obligations, the same legal obligations and criminal obligations that directors have. One of the key things in support networks that we offer as a national level is the ability to help you stay protected. However, if you're not engaging with our meetings and our compliance, we can't help you. So it's a really, really important thing, and it's not fair on Lizzie and everybody else's work in there. And I think it's a little bit facetious, the comments in there, to say, we work well just delivering this to the kids. You deliver it to the kids because of a lot of work that happens elsewhere to give you the tools and the facilities to be able to do that, to give you the D certificates, the C certificates, the B certificates, the A certificates.
That's right, Todd. I agree with you, but it's also
just give me a second, Jeremy, because I'm still talking on this one.
Thanks, guys. Let's keep up. Come on.
Yeah, we've just got to say in here, we've got to keep the focus on the constitutional side. You do have an obligation to come to these meetings and to actually vote and to do that. It's not something we're focusing, you're kind of doing your members a disservice. So I'd like you to think about that going forward as well, that there is an expectation to at least see you guys engaging with the process. And where it is local, that's why we move it around, because we understand that members can't get to Christchurch or to Auckland. But if we're in your neck of the woods, we kind of expect you to make the effort to come down and see us. But anyway, the next ones we've got is Claire, and then we've got Ali Todd.
Hi, everyone. I've got a question about the Constitution. I see there's a couple of changes to the individual membership categories. So there's now a change so that adult members either are categorised as an adult member or as a guardian member. And the thinking behind that, if I've understood correctly, is to ensure that the guardian members are the ones who ensure the clubs remain junior focused, i.e. young rider focused. Have I understood that right?
Yes, and
sorry, and then so we changed with the change now. The committee, as it has been, will now be officers, and I assume those officers, there's still a requirement for 7 as a quorum.
The committee doesn't change.
No, but technically they'll now be called officers.
Technically, per the Act, they are officers of the organisation.
Now, in terms of ensuring that the club remains child focused, what's the ratio of adult members versus guardian members that will be required on that committee?
So currently in the Constitution, it was intended, but it's not how it was worded, that at an AGM, parents or parents of the under 18s or the 18 to 25s are the ones who nominate for the position. So you can have adults like myself with no child at Pony Club onto a committee, but that has to be nominated by someone who is a parent or a guardian or a member themselves under 25. Now, somewhere along the lines, what was assumed was written became unclear. So you can have adults like myself on the committee, and I have a vote on the committee once I'm on the committee. But as a person with no children involved, I shouldn't be going, oh, this is my friend Joe, and Joe, you're going to come onto the committee because Joe wants cheap grazing at our grounds and wants us to have adult rides and things like that. So we're trying to clear it up to what the intent was, but over the course of time with remit changes, and I've had debates with this, like last year, sat at a technical events committee, and they're like, it says this, and it's like, it doesn't. What you've written over the years of updates has taken away from what the intent was. So we're trying to safeguard it. Todd, jump in.
One thing clear on there that I'd like to say, we don't have a threshold. We don't have a minimum adult member to guardian member on a committee. It's just that only the guardian member, as Lizzie said, can nominate. If you think we should have one, please put it in your feedback to come through, and we'll look at putting that in. But what we did realise is that a vast majority, particularly as you move up in the organisation to those area committees, we've got a lot of old hands that have been around for a long time that don't have kids involved. Their kids went out 2 generations ago, but they're still backbones to those committees, and without them they wouldn't run. And so I think it's incredibly important that we have the ability to keep that those people on those committees and make sure that they can stay on.
But they have
that's
to
why
be...
we didn't put any limits around any of that, because we didn't want to create an issue where these people got
But
lost.
we've all been to committee meetings. I've been to one, and it's like, I haven't even got a child involved, and I'm voting, I'm nominating and seconding all these other people who and who haven't got children involved. So, and it doesn't sound, unless you're living in it, and we do have clubs like this, and it's just basically now a group of adults with no children, no parents even, and they just get a new parent in, a new adult in, not a parent. So that's why there's the changing of words to get it back to protecting what Pony Club is.
So that change will be reflected when the rules and regs are updated, presumably.
Absolutely.
Absolutely.
And we will still be operating on a quorum of 7, so a sort of minimum of 7 on your committee.
Yeah.
Okay. So
Well,
I mean,
you need
even
more than
the
7.
numbers
Your
the numbers we've got, though, even at Pauatanui, with 25 members, and there's a couple of us with multiple children, you're still looking really at least probably half of your club being required to be on your committee.
Definitely, like when people come to us for quorum reductions, because people do come to me, I take it to the board for the quorum reduction. If you've got more than 10 adults, we're like, surely you can get 7 people to a meeting or in a committee. That's kind of the general feeling. I used to be a member of Katikati Pony Club, and they asked me to leave. Nice. Because I was skewing their adult numbers, because I was just a member without a child. So fair enough. It's like, okay, I won't pay you my membership. So yeah. It's all about keeping it youth focused in that situation, and that's one of the things we've need to tidy it up, just like that inferred number of kids within a branch or a club.
Okay, thank you.
Ellie, was it?
Yep, Ellie
Hi,
next.
everyone. Thanks, Ellie Todd. Having been a committee member on all 4 levels for a number of years, I can definitely say I'm one of those people who would be delighted to have one of those layers not have to go to a meeting. I totally get what Jeremy's saying, but I don't think that taking the club level out for Hutt Valley and Wellington stops Macra and Onslow working together. I don't think it would stop Belmont and Hutt Valley, or even Onslow and Partanui and Macra working together. You know, I don't think taking that club level out will reduce the ability for us to run those club events that we have in our area. So at the moment, Wellington would run, let's say, the dressage, and Hutt Valley would run the games. I don't think that would necessarily change if we take those clubs out. It just means you don't have to go to an extra meeting, but we could still have our new clubs, Macra and Onslow and Belmont and Upper Valley, working together to run those particular events. So I'm actually one of those people who is in favour of losing a level because of committee burnout, and you can be going to one every week sometimes. So I can definitely see what Jeremy was saying, but I think in our area, because we do work closely together because of, you know, geography, we're very close together anyway, makes it easy. I don't think that would stop us doing that.
I think the thing is, it's definitely countrywide so different, and that's the hardest thing with such a great but massive organization. Like as Kelly said at the beginning, it's not one size fits all at all. And you all have, even if you're as small as Auckland or as little as Waitemata Rodney, as in size capacity but not member capacity, everyone's got their different issues, their different problems, their different skills, their different abilities. And I think just capturing those is this is the best thing out of all of this, engaging with all of you. But if there's no more questions.
Well, there is one more from Becky, but just quickly on there, the key question we've got for you guys is, what do you need an incorporated society to run with its admin? If it is just facilitating stuff, you can do the same on a catch-up group and the likes of those. So the key thing is what you need an incorporated society to run. If you need it at those levels, because you need that that structure and that legal identity, then you should be looking at it. But if you can get away with something else, maybe you should consider if there's a different way of doing things. So we've got Becky and then we've got Vicky again. So Becky.
Perfect.
So I was going to remember what I was actually going to say, because it's been a little while since I put my hand up. I feel like a lot of assumptions have been made, particularly around the geographic layout of Wellington. It's not that easy for some people to actually get from A to B if you amalgamate clubs or move things around. Yes, there's Transmission Gully, which is a fabulous new road that goes from Wellington City up to the Kapiti Coast. But most of our pony clubs live on actually the periphery and don't touch that area. I feel like you are talking about the youth and the younger generation and whatnot, but the reality of it is the grassroots riders are the kids that often actually either graze on site at the local pony club or jump on their ponies and still ride down the hill to pony club. So by taking the aspect out, you are actually disadvantaging a number of people, whether you actually intend to or not. On top of that, I feel like, you know, you're also making assumptions about how Greater Wellington Regional Council actually operates, and actually they don't operate like a lot of the other regional councils around the park, and their focus has changed radically around a lot of the ways that they actually treat their regional parks and things in the Wellington region. And actually some of these things could actually disadvantage our smaller clubs that do have and touch on the regional parks, which a number of ours do. And saying that, you know, we need to be involved, well, I think every member of our clubs who are currently on this call at 9 o'clock on a Friday evening after working full time and managing 2 kids and ponies and stuff is actually a bit of a gross generalization of us not wanting to be involved. I very much want to be involved, and I apologize if I can't attend an AGM because I'm too damn busy, but I can get on a video call. So if you actually make those digital, I'd be more inclined to turn up. So I just wanted to throw that out there for everybody to hear publicly. Thank you.
Cool. Vicky?
Sorry, one last question, I promise. Just the intermediate level that we spoke about, is there going to be quite like guidelines around what is it that they do? Because are we going to continue to pay levies like we do to area now?
There will still be levies at each of those levels. So if you do end up creating those four levels, then there'll be levies at each one of those because there's an admin cost. What those levies look like, we're going to have to fully redo things anyway, because it's going to change based on how we go through it and what the most appropriate structure is. To be perfectly honest, from that side, that hasn't been a priority for us to look at. That's going to be something that'll come out separately to the AGM when we start pulling together the whole, right, if this is our structure, this is our budget, this is what we need, and we take up that the remit and therefore what the fees and everything would look like. Lizzie?
Can I jump in there? So every area does pay levies to New Zealand Pony Club based on their membership, on their riders, but how every area gets their levies is up to every area. Not, there's multiple different ways around the current country currently how that area gets them. It could be by collecting it from the membership and taking a portion out of, so if you're at Upper Valley, you may pay a portion, you pay your rally fee, you pay your national levy fee, you pay your Hutt Valley fee, and then you might have a Wairarapa Wellington fee. Or you may just pay one fee in total, and the part of it goes to your national levy, your Hutt Valley, you've got your fee for that, and then they don't take any more. That does happen around the country, and then what happens is Wairarapa Wellington may be doing levies on your events. So every part of the country is different in that way of how they do it. So I know in the Bay of Plenty, they get their money for the levies out of the events that the clubs and branches pay for. Okay, I'm going to move on and we'll get to so we talked about this not being it's being consultation and it's not a final decision. So before we go through, I just want to show you where everything is on the website, because it's all there. So the resources, as in the consultation update, the constitution update, is all here. And if you didn't see that, resources under there, you'll be linked into all of your discussions. This is the timeline of all of the meetings. Yep, I really appreciate that you guys decided to set your meeting for a Friday night. Thank you so much. Appreciate that. We started on the 6th of May and we're going all the way through, so thank you. And you can come to any of these. If you'd like to take the survey is here. It's just a click link. We'd love your feedback. If you have comments, we do need your feedback. As we said before, if it's not supported, we'll know, and then we won't be going forward with the current structural change. If you have a question, you can lodge it here. You can also put your questions in your survey. And here we've got, it's about 25 pages long now, reviews with questions and answers. So you can just click on that. And all your recordings are these little green bubbles underneath. If you're thinking about the slides from the first one that talked about the different constitutional changes, that's there as well. And I know that we talked about that got a new tab. Check that out. We're not going there though. That we've got the AGM and conference coming up. You can electronic vote, but I am going to push that if you are coming along, we have got practical workshops because we heard you for the grassroots. Lots and lots of grassroots practical ideas. You're really lucky you've got Ali. So Ali will probably do her presentations for you after the fact. But we have got really amazing workshops planned that will help your branches and clubs. That has been our focus. One thing we've got here is a national forum where you can come along and talk about rules and changes. And if you are in Christchurch, the AGM is free. I did hear a question before that someone said, are we going to video it? No, we can't. Unfortunately, our organisation owns 3 laptops. So we do not have the capacity to live stream an AGM and run an AGM at the same time. And we looked at the cost of it and we cannot afford it because we're keeping it as low as possible for a conference. If you decide you want to come along, there is the notice of AGM. We've also got a flyer for the AGM, and we can write you a really amazing letter to help with any funding applications to get you to the AGM if you're interested. So once again, our layers are here. This is our key timeline. Please go and do that survey tomorrow, probably because it's a bit later now. Tomorrow, before I go off to the Bay of Islands Pony Club's 80th birthday, I will try and get the slides and the minutes out and the survey link to you.
Hey, Anna's got a question, I think, Lizzie.
Okay.
It's more of an observation and I guess recognition. I realise at times this meeting has got a little bit fractious, and I have no doubt there have been others. So I just want to acknowledge Lizzie and the board's time. Thank you for giving up your Fridays as well and listening to feedback. I will be down at the AGM. I happen to be working in Christchurch at the same time, so I look forward to meeting you guys in person. But thanks again for your time and your work on this, especially board members as volunteers.
Thank you so much. And we want to see you and we want your feedback, guys. Without it, we don't want to present the Constitution or a structure that you do not want. But we also know that, there may be some people that don't want it, but the majority do. Okay, guys, so you're most welcome to stay on. You're most welcome to give me an email anytime. This weekend, I won't be answering emails, though. Sorry. Yes, Pip.
Sorry, I'll be really quick. Just one thing that has come up with the change to branches losing the club layer for teams events. So this is pertinent to us for things like Show Hunter Champs and Bruce Forbes. So currently clubs enter teams. If they don't have a full team, they tell the organisers. The organisers then have to put drafts in and organise their own teams. If we end up with a whole lot of smaller clubs, is there something that NZPCA could perhaps go out to those organisers of those events and say, like, what would be the problem? What would be the problem if Hawatahanui, say, have one full team and then we have another team of 3,
Absolutely.
and Hutt has another team of 2, Wellington has a spare? Can we put in a combined team rather than go to them and just say, well, we've got all these loose riders?
That would be something we are going to have in the new TNE regs. Yeah. If we go forward with this one, we've got to make it easy to say, look, if these guys come to you, you've got to do this. And so that it doesn't become one where you've got some overzealous bureaucrat going, oh no, you're 2 people short, we don't want your kids. That's not what we're about. We're about getting more kids at events. So any way we can do it, that's what we're going to write the regs to.
Cool. Thank you.
So I just want to reiterate on that. And I'm really on removing barriers. So I believe personally, if any child has got their NQSs or could go to an event because they've got the required scores, that they should go. Because myself, when I was 13 and I got to go to Eventing Champs, not as a team, it's my highlight of my life. I didn't get in the next year or the next year or the next year. So, but it's the highlight. To me, that was my Olympics. So yeah. I'm all for sending, and I'm not saying you have to fund them as an area, because some areas are out there you guys might fund. Trust me, some areas don't. Some even charge their riders to go in a fee. So nothing is equal in the land of all the different areas. So all I want is areas to say, yeah, we support them. We tick that they're good enough. Go ride.
Cool. Yep. Thank you.
Okay, guys. Well, thank you. It is getting later on a Friday night, so we really appreciate your time. Don't forget to do that survey. Send us questions, because that is the survey we will be looking at to determine what our membership wants. So once again, I'll send you the link tomorrow sometime. I won't forget. It will get there. It just might not be straight away. Cheers, everyone. Ka kite.
Thank
you.
Okay, Dan.
Thank you.
You're welcome. See you all later.